Cool.
I'm super curious how you got into just organizing in general.
Yeah.
You know, everybody's like, "Oh, what's your niche?"
Yeah.
Some people are like ADHD in general, but yours organization. How did that come to be?
Oh gosh. I think one of the things that I have focused on a lot when I worked in the corporate world for almost 9 years, I worked in leadership. And so I would constantly be working with my team around mindset and helping them understand, making these little changes and talking to yourself in a positive way and like getting to your best, oh my gosh, words, and getting to your best self by focusing on your strengths instead of your weaknesses
Oh yeah.
was something that I talked about a ton. And so when I left the corporate world, I wanted to go back into the corporate world, mostly because I thought that that was the box that I fit into. I now understand I don't fit into any boxes, which is
Ugh,
kind of cool. I know.
the
As I
corporate
grow
box.
through this world.
No.
Yeah. And yeah, so I originally thought about interior design because I have an eye
Oh.
for design. I love art. I love doing things with my hands. But about 8 years ago, I started decluttering my home. I noticed that I just had a ton of stuff. My husband and I met each other when we were both 28, and we
Uh-huh.
both had lived on our own for so long. And so we were combining, we had like two sets of plates and silverware, all of this stuff. And I grew up in a home where we had kept everything. There was never a process for getting rid of it. And so I started watching programs like The Minimalist. I watched Marie Kondo. I watched anything that would just kind of inspire me to start to downsize. So I did in a smaller sense, and I sold things on Facebook Marketplace, but I still had this corporate job that took up all my time. And then I had two kids, and in true ADHD fashion, I started a small business on the
Ha!
side of my corporate
Yeah.
job when I had my first job. So there was just all kinds of things going on, right? But
Yeah.
after I would worked with this career coach, I was like, you know what? I don't think anyone in the corporate world could give me exactly what I'm looking for right now, as far as being my own boss, setting my own schedule,
Yeah.
allowing me to live this life that I want to. And I didn't necessarily want to go into the interior design world because again, ADHD, it's all or nothing for me. I want
Oh
to
yeah.
do,
Okay.
like for interior design, I'm like, well, I've got to sign up for school and I've got to do 15 years of research before I do anything. But I had already had some experience in the decluttering and organizing realm, and I had made so many mistakes. Me going in so confidently was kind of hilarious. And it's
Yeah.
cute to see who I was a year ago because I'm like, oh gosh, this girl.
Yeah.
But I was so sick of people saying that people with ADHD couldn't be organized. Like,
Yeah.
I was just sick of society saying we can't be organized. So, originally, when I said I want to be a professional organizer, I wanted to create these beautiful Pinterest spaces that people could look at in awe and say, wow, now I'm organized. But after working with people with ADHD and understanding the struggles that I had when it came to organization, I just wanted to start approaching it in a way where people could feel more comfortable with approaching organizing. So, one thing that
That's really
inspired me,
interesting.
yeah, I've talked to a bunch of professional organizers, and I was asking them, do you organize with people or do you just go and organize for them? They said, oh, well, we just let the clients decide, but it is kind of annoying when we come back and things are messed up and things that didn't stay organized the way that they
Yeah.
should. And I'm like, well, how could you possibly expect things to stay organized if you organized for them
Oh
instead
my
of
God. Yeah.
with them? So I did organize for some people initially. And that's when I learned I'm like, oh gosh, if these people have any sort of ADHD whatsoever, I need to be working with them to
Right.
understand how they live their current lives so that I can help them come up with the solutions that are going to make the most sense for them.
That makes
Because,
sense because wouldn't they just
right?
it'll just go right back to the disorgan because they're not changing who they are or they're not
Yeah.
changing any of their routines or their behaviors, right?
Yeah.
They have to have the
Um,
tools.
Part of it too is like we'll take a kitchen, for example. You could
Yeah,
go
yeah.
into a kitchen, and if I'm doing it on my own, I'm organizing things that I don't know if you use or not. So why would
Well,
I
you're organizing for
establish,
you. You're
right?
organizing what you in your way of living. seems right, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So
so interesting.
I have my neighbor is my client, and we did her kitchen. And it's so funny because her husband has ADHD, but through working with me and all these other memes, she's like, I think I have ADHD. But but we're working together and I'm like, okay, so tell me a little bit about how you use your KitchenAid mixer. Like when you get it out. And she's like, well, we don't because it's annoying over here. And this is why. And she's telling me all the reasons why it's annoying. And I'm like, cool. Okay, so then we get to start to come up with these other options. So I absolutely love what I do because I ask so many questions to pull out of you the
Yeah.
questions you're not asking yourself and the questions you're not really thinking to ask yourself because you're just expecting to be good at something. And if we're not good at something right away, I know I like to give up almost immediately and just tell myself that I'm not good at it. But the truth
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
you're not going to be
I,
good
I
at it right away because you never did it before. And
I
that's
relate to
cool.
that big time. I do. I
Yeah.
relate to that big time. It's the it's an overwhelming feeling. It's like a
Mhm.
feeling of tension that this is too monumental and I can't see it done right at the moment. So I can't even get started because I don't know how. It's that's a really hard nut to crack. I
Yeah.
think for me, particularly with organization, my biggest hack is I got to be cool with myself because it's gonna get shitty again. And I have
Yeah.
to be like, oh, I'm only 20 minutes away from having that figured out again. But I wish I had confidence in my tools for being organized. Is that
Yeah.
what you give people?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I
what I
do.
need from you, Megs.
Totally.
I need your help. Will you please help me? Um,
Oh,
can I
totally.
ask you something then? Like in general, what is what are some questions that I would need to ask myself? Let's just take my office area
Yeah.
and my like what would I need to ask myself in terms of getting this? Because right now I'm looking at my desk and it's cluttered. It's got a bunch of shit
Okay.
everywhere, paperwork.
Cool.
What would I ask myself?
So take a look at your desk and take it all in. Give yourself a second and just take a look at what's there. Okay. So like
I'm gonna
start to put
out
it.
myself right now as
No,
a
you're totally
fucking
cool.
slob. Let's hit. No,
No.
this is good. This is good. Hit me with it.
Okay, cool. So start to look at it.
Yep.
What 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 do you have the most of on your desk?
Paper.
Okay. So now take a look at the paper. What does it consist of?
Um, old podcast episode that I wrote. Um, a marketing thing that I wrote down. I have a bill that I
Cool.
paid. I paid it. Thank you very much.
Heck yeah, man.
Yeah.
That's a
So I would.
celebratory win right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go have a drink real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay, good, good. I'll be right
Uh,
here.
and then the webinar that I did. Sometimes I'll print it out as a bunch of slides, as like six on a slide, so I can
Oh,
track it.
cool. Okay.
That's it. Next question, next. Go.
Okay. All right. So you got all these papers. Each of them have different jobs. What do you do with the podcast episodes when they're done?
Throw it in the garbage.
Okay. Cool. So throw it in the garbage.
Oh, Megs. I kind of see where this is going. I kind of see what you're doing here.
What about the webinar?
Okay, that's in the garbage. The webinar, I'm even going to have a jump on it. I just threw away the bill. The actual bill goes in my organizing. Can I say something real quick? I know
Yeah.
we're fixing my desk situation, which I am so thankful for. I'm getting
Yeah.
free help. It's
Yeah.
me taking advantage of you
No,
and
this is brilliant.
stealing your coaching. What do um I lost my thought. What was I saying?
Oh, the bills, the paperwork. You have like a pile of
Oh, I
papers,
have
right?
one bin. So I don't have paperwork piles. I have a bin. And when the
Hmm.
bin gets too full, that's when I go through it. But I think I have to go through it sooner. So then the all this stuff, the webinar deal, that goes in that pile. Done and done.
Cool.
Napkin, garbage.
Garbage. Okay, cool. So you can start to you start to acknowledge the stuff in your space to actually ask yourself, what the heck is this and what's it
Yes.
for? And that's some of the basics. And we are so we're so good at just letting things blend into its environment that
Yes.
it just that's its new home. That's where it
Yeah.
lives now because our we are so good. We have too many other things distracting us. We
Yeah.
can't let these things distract us. And so part of what I help my clients understand and anyone who listens to my podcast, I talk about breaking up tasks into the smallest tasks imaginable.
I'm
Because if
into
we
that.
think about it like climbing a mountain, we can't climb a mountain in a day unless you're in Colorado and you happen to go do a 14er. But like even that, you got to assimilate to all the, the altitude blah, blah, blah. But when we think about doing these big things, like if you think about decluttering your whole house or organizing your whole house and everything has a place, you can't do that in a week or a weekend. So we avoid doing it at all because we
Yes.
know that we think that we have to stop our entire lives in order to get this shit done. But
Yes.
the truth is that if we break it up into the smallest task imaginable, something that we can actually say, I can tangibly do that in 5 minutes or 15 minutes, that's when the real magic happens. And that's when you start to see, like, have you ever read James Clear, The Atomic Habits?
You can put it
Okay.
over here. Yeah,
So
I
he
have it.
talks about making 1% improvements every day. And if you improve by just 1%, just make that teeny
Yeah.
tiny little step in the right direction, then you're going to see this monumental change over the course of a year. It's fascinating.
I totally believe in that. Like the way that I view that particular aspect is that if you think about doing like one little thing, I usually think about exercise because it's so easy to relate to like weight loss or muscle
Yes.
building. But like if I just go on a walk every day for a week, it's not a big fucking deal. But if I go, okay, I'm gonna go on a walk every day for a week, and then I'm gonna add 5 push-ups a day for the next week.
Ooh,
And then the
okay.
next week I'm gonna add sit-ups. By the end of 52 weeks, you've added 52 things.
Yeah,
You're probably pretty in shape if I'm a
totally.
betting man. By the way, side note to all this,
Yeah.
I want to add the fact that like that question that you gave me about my desk created momentum in me. And
Yeah. And now you're like,
while
Megs,
you're
can you just
talking,
stop for a sec?
I'm literally in my seat, kind of organizing my post-its over
Yeah.
here. It gave me enough juice just to start going. So that question was a catalyst. It was a great get started thing.
Yeah.
So thank you. Just
Oh,
side note, thank you.
I love that. And I have a story for you. I have this woman that I work with and I absolutely love and adore her. I helped her in her home so much to the point that we were able to start to decorate her home
Oh,
because she's
cool.
got all of these hobbies. It was when I realized this profession was for me. We organized, wait for it, her rock collection.
Shut
And
up.
I'm not
That's
even
cool.
joking. I was
That is
like,
so
"Oh my
cool.
God, this is the best job ever." But we found like we set it all up and she's got these twinkly lights that she had been saving. We had organized them in a spot so we knew where they were and we were finally able to set them up. But we stopped working with each other for a little bit. She had been going through remission. She actually got
Ah,
diagnosed with breast cancer like the minute I had started working with her. So
okay.
we knew this was coming, but it was perfect because she had made so much progress in her home that it wasn't dwelling over her anymore. But I came back to work with her after a couple of weeks and I asked her about some stuff. I was like, "Hey, what do you want to do with this?" And she's like, "Oh, you could see it on her face, like this anguish and this turmoil." And she's like, "Just throw it away." And like, I'm like, "Whoa, what's happening? Why? Why are you having so much angst about throwing this away?" And she goes, "Well, I just know I should. I know I should be throwing that away because that's, kind of like she was expecting me to say, like, just throw it away. But that's not the way I work. I don't want
Yeah.
you to think that I want you to throw it away. I want you to make the best decision for you in your life. And
Oh, good.
it was, so
That
it
hurt
was
me. I
the,
was like,
I know, like, don't, no. So I'm like, if you're going to throw it away, I want you to feel comfortable with throwing it away. And so
Yeah.
Come to find out, it's these, it was a cardboard box, but on the back of it, it had a picture of a flower, and it was for these plates that she had gotten in Australia. And each of these plates was a different flower in Australia. And they had the description of the flowers on there. So she said to me, well, I'd really like to know a little bit more about the flowers because she really likes plants. But she's like, but I also honestly know I'm never going to read the back of that box. I said, okay. So what if, because we know where the plates are, we decorated them in her house, we have them. I said, what if you used something like Google Lens to look up the plates so that you could know what kind of flower it was if you were to ever look this up again, right? Like that
Oh,
box still exists somewhere. You can
yeah.
find the description. And she goes, I do that for my flowers to learn how to take care of them. If I don't know how, like what it is. So it was a connection of sorts. So we know that this isn't the end to having that thing. It is
Yeah.
just the process of understanding why you're letting go of a cardboard box because the thing you want to do with that information still exists in your home, just in a different
Yeah.
form. And we came up with a solution for that.
That's
So
brilliant.
it felt really good because I'm like,
But she
whoa,
was
we're
gonna
just,
chuck the plate.
yeah, my stuff. No, not the plate, just the
Oh,
cardboard box.
okay. I was like, what the
No, we hung up the plate. So, I
fuck?
think that's another thing is like we learn something once with ADHD and then
Yeah.
we expect to be experts at it again and again and
Yes.
again. And I lost my brother-in-law earlier this year and it was
Oh, sorry.
devastating.
Hmm.
And one of the things I just kind of expected to pick up and continue to live my life with the grief. And I knew that there was a lot of grief and I was really sad about it, but I just kind of expected to continue to live life as I always did. But one thing I noticed was I started sleeping in a lot more. I stopped writing in my journal as much. I
Hmm.
stopped writing down my gratitude. I stopped taking care of myself in the way that I knew to be taking care of myself. And honestly, that's something that I needed in those moments. But it's been months now, and I've just now in the last month gotten back to waking up early again and doing some of the things that I'm used to in my routine, but it's changed a little bit. And part of the reasons why it's changed is because I just haven't reminded myself of the things that I used to do to make myself feel really good. So
Yeah.
I feel like because we're, I don't know, our working memory is not great. Research shows our working
That's
memory is
being
not
kind.
great. Yeah. And so when it comes to stuff like that, it's okay if someone in a profession is reminding you, or if you have like
Yeah.
a list of reminders that you read every day to remind you of why you're doing the different things that you're doing. And then eventually it can become more of a routine. But
Yeah.
I always
That
thought
plays
that that
into,
was,
I'm sorry. I was gonna say that
please,
plays
yeah,
into like my, like when I get depressed and stuff is because I feel like I know who I could have been, or I know who I could be, or I know at what levels I can operate on. And so then
sure.
even if I get sick, I was talking about this recently. If I get sick, if I have a depressive episode, I then fall. That's what it feels. And then I'm back at square one, right? And it's like but I know what I'm capable of. So it's very
Yeah.
frustrating to be like back down here and go, okay, well, I'm back down to guy that wakes up early and tries to get that walk in, as opposed to I'm the guy that works out 3 times a week and da 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 da. Right? Do you ever frustrate with that? Or
Yeah.
yeah,
Totally. And I would
yeah,
argue, though, that you're not back at square one because
right,
you know how well you can function at a level when you're doing these different things. So,
yeah,
like, you're so familiar with what that feels like that even if you fall, which we all do, because we all
yeah,
hit a dip, we also know what it feels like on the other side. And so, I
totally.
don't
I
know.
say
It's like,
eliminate the number out of the square. It's just I'm
yeah,
in a square. It's not square one. It's just this particular square, whatever
yeah,
that is. And I'm on my way to
totally.
that square.
Yeah. So yeah, I would say I hit that a lot. I have this craft closet in my house
Oh,
and I'm it's kind of embarrassing, but it's not at the same time because I just want to be really honest. I do still have ADHD. I just also know how to organize
right.
really well. But when it comes to your own stuff, when I don't have my
Yeah.
professional self there. I have me who thinks I know what I'm doing in my own space, not asking
Yes.
myself any of the questions that I ask my clients. So I did a podcast episode recently where I talk about this, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm so annoyed. So the other day, I finally went through this closet again after decluttering it like 3 or 4 times. And I finally took all my own damn professional advice and put it together in a way that would make sense. Not only that, but then I communicated with my family what is supposed to happen here if you were to do all of these different things and what all of these different spaces are for. And I put labels on it so that people would remember even after I told them because it's literally
Ooh,
written down.
you've got
So,
labels. Can
yeah,
you really quick, because you just mentioned it, is you have a podcast, which is awesome. Can you tell
oh,
people what the
yeah,
podcast is and then what's going
totally.
on with it?
Yes. So, podcast is Organizing an ADHD Brain. And I do solo episodes, I do interviews, I talk a lot about how people are organized with an ADHD brain, both in the
What?
physical sense. I know, it's crazy. But both in the physical sense and just in our daily lives. I have an episode on schedule organizing and just like
Ooh.
how to get in front of some of the stuff that I don't know, we think we're so scatterbrained, but there's also so much proof out there of so many incredible people that are successful with ADHD. Right? Like, I mean, look at you, look at me, right? We're doing damn things.
We
It's
are doing
just,
things. Come on.
right?
By the
And
skin of our teeth.
by the
We're
skin of our teeth.
we're making it happen.
Yeah. Oh my
For sure,
gosh.
for sure.
So, think that we can actually do things, but then it's also recognizing giving ourselves grace. I talk about that a lot on my
Yes.
podcast is just like, hey, if you've never organized before, you're going to suck at this. So, welcome to the suck and enjoy it for
Oh
a
my
hot
God.
second because you're going to grow
I
from that.
I love we have
So,
the same language mind, by the way.
yeah.
Like it's
Heck
gonna
yeah.
like, oh, I love it. It's like I really resonate with everything that you say.
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you this then, because
Yeah.
when you were looking into like organization as your thing, um, I think the way that you were talking about it resonated with me in terms of like the way that I help people is like how to get your shit together in terms of productivity, moving your needle forward. It's kind of depression specific with ADHDers of
Yeah.
like little. So for me, it was that's who my heart breaks for the most. It's me 10 years ago, and the self-loathing is off the charts, all that stuff. Is there I sensed that in you when you were talking about organizing. Is that like is there an emotional component in you that makes you want to niche down into organizing? Because I know there's more to it than that, but like, is that who
Yeah.
your heart breaks for? Like,
Absolutely. I
who do
mean,
you cry about every night, Megs? Who the fuck are you crying about? That's such a weird way to ask
oh,
it.
no, it's so real though. My heart breaks for the moms out there or non-moms, late diagnosed women or men with ADHD who have been told they're lazy, have been told they can't be organized, and now they have all of this crap in their lives that's distracting them from the incredibleness that they could be pursuing. Like one
Oh,
thing I
that's
love
awesome.
about our brains is like, and I have to pause because I get very, all of the people that I work with who have ADHD, guess what? They have hobbies. And how many hobbies do they have? Guess. How many
Ooh.
hobbies do these people have? Like
A
5, 10 hobbies?
multitude.
Yes. So I actually I have to give myself a rule. I'm not allowed to adopt any of the hobbies that my people tell me about and how incredible they are
Oh,
because I have my own damn hobbies already. So I have to keep blinders on. So
you
that's
get
one of the
juiced up
rules.
on people's when
Oh,
people start talking about exciting things.
yeah.
It's like oh, that would be fun.
Yeah.
Oh
Like one of
man,
my clients knits and I was
yes,
like, "Well, that I've knitted once. What an I should also take up." So I have to, keep myself grounded when it comes to stuff like that. But
that's so funny.
people with ADHD have these incredible hobbies that they can, sometimes we alternate between them. Sometimes we do one thing or another thing, but we've got all of these things that are distracting us from the things that we could be doing to elevate our lives. Like, I would much rather be like planting flowers. And honestly, once I started decluttering my house and now I don't have anything on my counters but my flowers, guess who remembers to water their flowers on a regular basis?
Yeah.
I swear to God. So I used to be an awful plant mom, and I used to joke around that I couldn't keep a plant alive to save my damn life. And most of it is because I didn't remember that they existed
Yeah.
until they were so dead that I'd have to throw them out. And actually, because of one of my other clients, I would observe her in the way that she took care of her plants. I started to expand. I was like, oh, maybe I should split this up. So, like, I was able to expand my hobby of taking care of my houseplants and even my garden outside. I can focus on these things that make me so much more happy instead of like having a pile of this and that and a pile of things that I think I might need one day.
Mhm.
I get to focus on what my life is now. And that's what I
That's
love
great.
so much. It's been really neat to see people just own what they love to do. I have this one client who she stays at home with her kids now, but she was a dietitian and so she loves to make food. She loves to cook. And so we worked on her pantry together and we found these really cool things to keep all of her pasta in. She's got like all kinds of different pastas. And she said the first day when her son came home from school, he was so excited to go into the pantry and he's like, "Oh my God, can I pick the pasta tonight?" Because he could see
Wow.
them. He could see like
Yes.
what was available instead of it being like just this jumbled, just trying to put stuff where it goes. You could see everything you have available. So it just makes cooking or living your life that
Yeah.
much more enjoyable because you know what you have.
Oh my God, Megs, you're awesome.
You're awesome.
Oh, good, good talk. All right, we'll see you later. Click. No, do you mind me asking, how do you work? How do, or like, let's say people are like, man, Megs is the shit. How do I work with her? Like, what is your style, or what do you have going on that how people would work with you?
Yeah, so I have a 90-day program that I put
Oh,
together and
yes.
it's I first like book a oh my gosh, words. How do you work with me? Okay, so book a
You
time on my
get in a
schedule.
bus, you
So
drive.
yeah,
Where
you
do you live?
just
Utah, Colorado? Where are you from? You're like, Megs, you make it
oh my
really hard.
gosh.
You buy property next door to me and I'll help you out.
Exactly. Yep, precisely. So if you go to Instagram or TikTok or any of my social media platforms, it'll connect you to either my schedule or you can go directly to my website, which is mindfulmegs.com, and you
Oh,
just book a
cool.
30-minute meeting with me. I like to ask you a lot of questions first just to ensure that we'll be a good fit and just to make sure that I'm exactly what you're looking for. And so for my 90-day program, we meet once a week and we talk about what's going on in your life and including understanding what our brain is, like what executive function
That's,
means,
yeah.
what it means to be time blind, what it means with all of the emotions that come along with being ADHD. And then we connect that to what it's like being organized. Like, why is the time blindness preventing us from being organized? Why is executive function preventing us from being organized? So, understanding the why behind the why helps you understand how you can put it together. And so from there, like 90 days allows us to transform yourself from thinking you can't do it to understanding how much you can do it and believing in yourself in a way
Man,
that you've never believed in yourself before.
that's
So,
rad. That is
yeah,
really just even to the like buying into that feeling. Just I would love to have that feeling, regardless of how pristine and storybook or like out of the Architectural Digest magazine, to
yeah,
have the feeling of like I can do this is huge. Can I put your
totally.
calendar? Well, I don't know. I don't know if that
Oh
stuff
yeah,
is perpetual. Maybe. Well, all
yeah,
the links to your socials will be in the show notes. But
for
then,
sure.
yeah, yeah. So, or how people can connect with you, we'll put that in the show notes. Whatever the best way is.
Absolutely.
That's so
Yeah,
cool. What else do you got going
yeah.
on? You
I
told me
also
about something called digital decluttering, so you might as well talk.
digital decluttering. Yeah.
Get into
So
that.
it's super cool. We meet one on one like this over Zoom. And I send you a bunch of questions before about the space that you want to work in. And then I help you understand the space in a way that helps you declutter it. And so we make some pretty big progress in an hour. And I do a lot of telling you what to do, but I do a lot of asking questions, kind of like I did with you or in the
Well, I'd
beginning.
say you literally digitally decluttered my desk while being interviewed on a podcast. So you
Totally.
really crushed it.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
am
Thank
I'm
you.
pretty damn organized right here on my little desk. So this,
Heck yeah. So we talk about that, we talk
yeah,
about those things. And then after the session is over, I send you a follow-up and talk about, what we did and some additional steps you can take from there. And that's something that we can do on a regular basis. It's something that you could do once, one and done, right?
yeah.
Depending on your level of support that you need. So that's pretty cool. And then on my podcast, if you just want to follow along, get some tips and tricks, I do have my Patreon. So if you want to follow
Oh
along
yeah.
that way and support the podcast, I will be having tiered levels coming out in September where you can join, and I will be doing a Q&A once a month so that you can come and ask more questions about how you could possibly be organized while also having ADHD.
Oh, I need some.
It's good stuff.
I need to pick your brain more. I almost want
Heck
to just
yeah.
walk you around and be like, hey, let's randomly talk about my kitchen. And
Yeah,
what question would I ask myself in the kitchen? Is it really just look at like I want to revisit this a little bit because this is the summary, the takeaway. And usually most of the episodes, I really want people to leave with like, okay, what's the challenge?
sure.
So why don't I tee you up? Why don't you do the
Sure.
challenge? Like, what would you challenge people who have cluttered messes going on in their house or their apartment? It's not just one room, it's every room. Laundry on the floor, desk crazy, bookshelves the best. What's the challenge?
Cool. All right. So my challenge for you is to set a timer for 15 minutes.
Ooh, I already love it.
Put
Setting a
on
timer.
Yes, set a freaking timer. We're time blind. You don't know how long something's going to take you,
Megs,
but
you're
you
the
could do something
genius.
in 15 minutes. Yes. So set a
Someone
timer for
else.
15 minutes
Yeah.
and then put on a freaking playlist that is awesome, that like fills your cup up. What is your jam? Put on a playlist. And then I want you to go to one space in your home and put some figurative blinders on, some like blinders, and give yourself a little bit of rules and tell yourself, if I'm working in this space for 15 minutes, I am not allowed to leave this space until that timer goes off. So that's one of the rules that you can give yourself, and then see what you can get done. Are you decluttering? Are you organizing? Are you throwing away trash? You get to decide because everyone's space is a little bit different. And so, kind of like I did with you, notice what's around. So, if you're working in your kitchen and you open up your junk drawer, what does your junk drawer mostly have in it? Is it receipts that you thought you should keep? I don't know. Make a pile of receipts and now go through them. And if that's all you get done in 15 minutes, that is what you get to celebrate. And I was talking to someone about this the other day because we're so used to celebrating. Yes,
I love that.
celebrate.
Oh,
Yes.
my playlist, by the way, I have this playlist called 80 Saves. So it
Oh my
has my
gosh.
80s music. So it has Survivor in there, Billy Squire. It has, it actually has Barry Manilow's Mandy.
Oh my.
Mandy juices me up.
Oh,
I'm not
see?
afraid to say it. I like it.
Absolutely.
I like it a
So,
lot.
and like it should be fun. Like music gets me going. It fuels my soul. And so when I'm jamming out and I'm singing and I'm also decluttering and doing something that fills me up, I start to look forward to it. And also getting rid of stuff gives you the same dopamine rush that buying stuff does. So like if you,
Really?
yes, sir, absolutely. So getting rid of
Okay.
stuff and like like the full circle, like not just putting it into your garage to make more decisions on it. I mean like literally taking the stuff, putting it in your car, driving it to the donation place and dropping it off. It fills your cup up the same way you would going shopping and bringing home, a bunch of stuff. And
Yeah.
so I wanted to come back to celebrating the small wins though. Like
Hmm.
the smaller the win, the better to celebrate because we're so used to celebrating these
Yeah.
big wins and we're so used to seeing these monumental things that we're trying to achieve that if we're only celebrating that, we know how freaking hard it is to do that. So we're going to get so used to celebrating that instead of giving ourselves credit for the little things. And it's the little
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that actually add up to the big things. It's those little things that we do on a regular basis, those little tiny habits or routines we incorporate into our lives that
Mm.
make the biggest difference in the world.
I want to speak to that just for a
Yeah.
minute though. Is that sometimes in ADHD town, it's like those insignificant moves forward. Uh, they you have to like force feed the win, and a lot of times I will my my win is that I get to quit. That's why I fucking love timers. 15
Yeah.
minutes and it's a night like cleaning to me is a nightmare. So
Yeah.
if I get to the end of the 15 minutes, I reward myself with saying I
Totally.
get to stop. And no matter what, it's going to be better than it was before.
Yep.
Oh, I have another thing I wanted to ask you.
Yes.
Because it's the questions that you ask. A lot of us don't know, and I see this in coaching too sometimes with like people don't necessarily know the questions to ask. So like when you say things like when you look in a drawer and you say, "What do I mostly have in here?" I would never ask myself that. And
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh my God." Like when you said to me, like, "What's mostly on your desk?" And I was
Yeah.
like, "Oh, the answer is paper." But I would
Yeah.
never think to ask myself that question. And
Hmm.
look what it led to. It led to some great forward progress. So I want to extrapolate from you organizing questions. That would be
Yeah.
amazing.
Totally. Oh, I have a really good, juicy one for you.
Dude,
Yeah.
give it to
Okay.
us. You're so
Totally.
kind and
Okay.
generous. Thank you.
Oh, for
Thank
sure.
you
For
for the
real.
generosity.
This I just posted this on Threads too because it's not mine. I just read a lot of books. And so this is something that just really
Yeah,
spoke to me.
yeah.
And this is from the book Decluttering at the Speed of Life. I forget the author, but like
Okay.
so good. Go read it. But instead of putting something away, and with ADHD, when we're cleaning up, it's kind of like, well, let me hide this. Where does it fit? Right? What is
Is there room under my bed?
is there
Is there
room under here? Yes, exactly. Which
totally, dude?
means that now you're losing everything. You are literally putting things away to lose everything because you're not doing
Ah,
it with any strategy. You're doing
yes,
it with the intent to declutter, but ultimately just to put things away. Have you ever heard of the term doom pile?
yes.
Okay, so doom means didn't organize, only moved. So in some cases,
That's
we're
hilarious.
actually dooming our cabinets and the things that we're just putting things away in. So
Yes.
instead of putting something away, you take one thing and you say to yourself, where would I go to look for this if
Oh
I was
yeah.
trying to find it? So instead of saying, where does it fit or where does this go? Because where does this go and where would I go to look for this are actually two different places, which is kind of
Yeah.
hilarious. Like, I don't know, it's like we have two different brains in here sometimes, but
It's the normie world. Like there's a
yeah,
proper place for these things. I'll tell you
right.
that's exactly why I have Tupperware in the cupboard with my glasses and
Yep.
I have measuring cups.
Yeah.
Those all don't go in the same spot, but they do. Because that's
Because
the
that's,
cupboard I
yeah,
want to open to find them. And it's
yes.
like it feels natural, so that's where it goes.
And
I
that's
love
cool.
that.
And you get to decide what being organized means to you. So
Yeah.
just because it's portrayed one way in the media or on social media or on Pinterest, you get to decide if you're organized or not based on what your goals are. So that is organized for you because it makes sense. So yeah, so like if you're I don't know, I don't have anything on my desk right now. Okay, I do. I have a mini magnifying glass. I have no idea where this
What
came
a
from.
cluttered
Okay?
mess you are. Oh my
Literally
God.
I have barely anything on my desk, but my children like to play in here. So I would probably go throw this away because my kids are never going to be looking for a magnifying
Oh,
glass and I have no idea where I would go put this. I would like where would I go to look for a magnifying? I just wouldn't be looking for a magnifying glass. I'm like, I don't think in my entire life of living have I been looking for a magnifying glass. Plus it's tiny and plastic. So to make myself feel better, I might put it in my donation box. So,
wow. And then your kid's going to be like, where the hell's my magnifying glass?
oh,
I put it where I'm going to look for it, which is on your desk, mom.
yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
You're
So
like,
that's
that's
another thing,
Goodwill. Let's go to Goodwill because that's where I
right?
put it.
Let's I actually avoid
Wow.
Goodwill now because I'm like, we're not allowed to go there because you're going to see a lot of things that you're missing.
Wait, those are my shoes.
Yeah.
Oh. It's a
They don't
popular
fit.
shoe brand, I guess.
I do include my kids in a lot of what we do now because I got rid
Mhm.
of two stuffed animals earlier this
Ooh.
year, and my girls were so sad about it. And I was like, okay, rule from now on, I'm going to involve you in this process. We're
Oh,
still going to let go of some stuff, but I teach them what I've taught myself
that's cool.
because I want them to start doing it now. But yeah, so like magnifying glass, that's not a thing. And you
It's
know
gone.
what? I just thought of where
Stay
I
away from
would go to
magnifying
look
glass.
for it. I have a
Oh,
science kit spot. So I have a science kit spot for my daughter. So that's probably where that's going to go.
I
But
embarrassingly have. I guess it would be a doom pile. It's a Tupperware of kid shit, and it's got
okay.
pencils. It's got all kinds of random stuff, and I'm like, if it's a kid thing, I'll just throw.
Okay.
I don't care if it. I don't. I have no feelings about like if so. If they ever wonder like where is it, I was like, I don't know. Check that Tupperware because if
Yeah.
I ever picked it up, that's where it is in that big messy Tupperware bin.
Okay, but if it has a job though, like I would say a doom pile is more like a cluttered mess of everything
Oh, of
that
all of it.
belongs in all the different spaces.
Okay.
Whereas that, I would say that's organizing. You've
Yeah.
designated a spot for kid stuff and you have a rule in your
Yeah.
head for what means kid stuff to you. So if someone's looking for something, you're literally pointing them in the right direction.
So how about
So,
that? So maybe I do have my shit together. Thank you very much.
see? That's what I'm saying. And then, you were talking about your box of papers, and we talked about that on my podcast too. And you were like, "Oh, I'm so disorganized." And I'm like,
There it is.
"Okay, yeah."
If
So,
you're
but you
watching this on
said,
the YouTube channel, you're seeing it. If you're listening to it on the podcast, I just pointed at a big bin of paper.
but you have a process, right? So you have a system. You
Yes.
say, if I have this piece of paper, it's going to go here. When this gets too full, I'm going to go through it. And I have a rule for where I put things,
Yes.
right? But you said earlier in the podcast that you wanted to come up with a better way to do things. So I would ask you,
Yeah.
what about the existing process or system doesn't work right now?
I can tell you exactly because there's actually a
Okay.
member in our community that does this. She does this weekly. And
Okay.
I was like, oh, that would have saved me because if you'll see, I'm going to show the world this. I push it to the limit. I'm like, no, there's
Okay.
still room.
Yeah.
Here, I can squeeze a piece of paper right up in there. Done.
Sure.
Right.
Absolutely.
So, but I will maybe miss, I won't necessarily miss a bill because I have all that stuff on auto pay, but
Yeah.
I'll miss communications that I should have gotten to. Um, it's uh, things kind of get too far away from me
Yeah.
because that'll maybe last a month,
Okay.
maybe even longer. It just depends. So that's what I'd say doesn't work for me.
So how often would you like to be visiting that pile?
0 times ever.
Never. I want someone
Excuse
else to
me.
do it for me.
I want to make enough money to have an assistant that goes
Heck
through my
yeah.
doom. Yeah. No,
Okay, done.
I think realistically, maybe once every couple of weeks
Cool.
would be the goal because weekly to me feels overwhelming.
Yeah.
It feels like usually for chores and things like that that are not fun, they feel like the rest of my life. They feel like this is what I'm a prison sentence. And so it doesn't go well with my mood. But once every other week seems more like, oh, it's not going to get above the top. It might actually I might even be able to do it once every 3 weeks. I don't know. But I think the goal would be to actually, you know what? It would be to take care of it before it gets too tall, before it gets over the lid.
Yeah.
That might be a way to do it.
Cool. And
Excuse
it
me.
sounds like just looking at it is overwhelming, especially right now since there's a lot of it.
I don't give a shit.
You don't.
I
Okay,
have
cool.
no, that's the problem, right? So for
Okay.
me, sorry, I'm getting over being sick again. So that
Oh
lingering cough is
no.
awful.
Yeah.
But no, I will choose to forget about it. It's
Mm.
it. I have no feelings for it. I don't like it. When I think about dealing with it, it's I don't know about overwhelming, but there's tension. There's like, I don't want to, right?
That's interesting. I Do you think that every piece of paper in that pile needs to be dealt with, or do you think that some of it could be thrown away?
I'm going to say 70% of it is going to be garbage.
Okay.
And then a lot of it is
So,
going to be letters that I never opened,
oh,
but they're bills on auto pay. But
cool.
for some reason, I don't throw them away. Um, and yeah,
Okay, cool. So you get a bill, it's on autopay, but you keep it. So why not throw it away as soon as you get it?
it's a great question.
Cool.
I'm going to cut out the pause in here just so everyone
Yeah,
knows there's a pause of me thinking about what she's saying.
good.
And people be like, man, he had an answer for her instantly.
Yeah,
I guess I could. There's that maybe that normie feeling of like you're supposed to open it and file it.
cool. And so that would be my question to you. Why?
Yeah, why indeed? It's
What on
2024. Why am I not paperless? God damn it.
And even if it's coming to you in paper, do you have a version of this where you could access it somewhere else?
I can log in to my account.
Cool,
Ah,
dude. Okay, so here's where you get to solve some of your paper issue. This is what I do with my mail, and this wasn't going to be my solution, but like I'll give you this
okay.
idea. When the mail comes in, I make the decision right away whether it stays or goes. And so
Okay.
that way, like I'm just opening it all and I'm like, do I need, so I have to ask myself
You scream at
specifically,
yourself?
do I need it? And I critically think about each thing. Now, I have been challenging myself to do this for a while. And so you might not know the right questions to ask yourself right away, but
Yeah.
part of it is exactly what I just did with you is like, am I keeping this because I think I should keep it, or am I keeping it because I actually do need it for my life to live more effectively?
Yeah.
And so there's things like that, and then for things like communications and stuff like that, sometimes I'll even add a reminder in my phone to come back and look at it. And
Oh.
like like I saved a video on TikTok the other day that I wanted to look at, and I was saving it and I was like, "Shoot, I know who I am. I have so many saved videos that I'm never going to go back and look at." Like I'm that person. But I literally added it to my to-do list, and then for a whole month I brushed over it because it wasn't a priority. And then guess who sat down and watched that TikTok video yesterday and implemented some of the tactics that I
Oh,
read
no
about?
way. You
Heck
did it.
yeah, because I
You
had it written
revisited a
down.
TikTok.
Yeah. And then I like set a reminder to do it. So it was pretty cool. Like, there's systems and things that work for us, but you're so right about the normie thing. Like we think that we should be keeping certain things.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But
I
then
noticed that. Can I say something really quick about like
yeah.
that decision? That I think that's a skill set that needs to be adopted. Where
Mm,
uh, it, in my world, if I everything, I want a quick answer to everything, right? So I'm very impulsive, and so if I'm grabbing the mail and I'm saying, what am I doing with this? I'm having to stop down and ask myself a question. And if the answer doesn't immediately come to me, that momentary microscopic bit of tension automatically kills me and says, put it in a pile, put it somewhere,
yeah.
move away. So that I believe that that's a skill set to be learned of
Yeah.
stopping down and taking a breath and asking the question. Um, I just wanted to touch on that really quick because I
Yeah.
know who I am. And I'd be like, unless I'm deliberate, I'm going to do Meg's thing. And this is what I do. And oh, okay,
Yeah.
I'm in the moment. So I'm stopping down. I'm asking a question, waiting for an answer and allowing it. Isn't this crazy how that would take maybe 15 seconds max, but it
Right.
feels like too long. It feels like the rest of
Yes.
my life.
Yes. Okay. So because I feel the same way.
Yeah.
I poured myself a glass of kombucha the other day, and it comes in this glass bottle, and I put it on the counter. And I looked at it and I was like, I do not want to walk over to the sink and rinse it out and put it into the recycling right now. Nothing in any bone of my body wants to do that. And
Yeah.
then I asked myself, how long would that actually take me? And I'm like, oh, fuck, 30 seconds.
I
So
know. I know.
so then so
Yes.
then I did it. And so, like, part of it is, like, adopting these questions, and I got this from, I think her name is Tracy Otsuka. She wrote a book called,
Yeah.
ADHD for Smart Ass Women. She has a podcast too.
Yeah. She's a big podcast. Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah.
But she was talking about this woman who had a son who had ADHD, and he loved like doing science experiments and things that could get him in trouble, things that could actually cause some safety issues. And so instead of making it a big deal and getting really angry, she actually gave her son a set of rules to ask himself every time
Oh.
he went into doing a new experiment. And so that's what I teach some of my clients to do too, is because, like, the other day I was decluttering and I was like cleaning and I was like, oh, I should get out the paint and I should paint the walls because that's what I want to do right now. Like, all of these things. I was like, actually, I could wallpaper, and I've got all of these things going through my head. And if I allowed myself to go down these crazy trains, I would be doing that. And then I would be
Yeah.
exhausted and I would be like, why do I ever do anything? Because it's too exhausting to live my life because I
Yeah.
allow myself to do it. But like establishing those rules. So what I would say is like just knowing that you can do that is the first step. And then like don't listen to me, but just think about it the next time you get your mail for the next month. And like just think about it. And how could that
Yeah.
apply to you? Because the way I live my life is going to be different than the way you live yours, no
Yeah.
matter what. In the end, like just because I give advice doesn't mean that my way is the right way. It just means that you could adopt a form of that as your own way.
I
And I
love
think
that.
that's what's so cool about sharing how we experience ADHD, because we get to learn from one another.
I love that a lot.
Mhm.
So, and that's a challenge. That's challenge number 2. We got 2 challenges going on right now. Oh, I was
Mhm.
flipping you off. That was an accident. I was like,
Yeah,
we have 2 challenges.
man.
We have 2 challenges going on right now. First one is a 15-minute timer. Done. Second
Mhm.
one, mail.
Yeah.
I'm going to actually post that in my community because we do
Love it.
challenges. I'm going to freaking put the mail challenge for 30 days. We look at our mail and we think about it.
Yeah.
I do like the idea of there's no rule on what to do with it. It's
Yeah.
just think about it, get to know who you are, and then insights start to bubble up. Oh, I could do this or I could do that. That
Mhm.
I love. Megs, this is
Cool.
so much fun. This is awesome talking to you.
Yeah.
By the way,
Cool.
so everything's going to be in the show notes and all that pizzazz razzmatazz. Um, everybody should go check out your podcast, which is badass. And all that stuff. The 90-day, the digital decluttering
Heck yeah.
link will be in the show notes.
Yes, please come
Um,
follow. I'd love to chat. This has
oh
been so
yeah,
fun.
and all your socials. Yeah, thank you so much for coming by, and let's do this again. I just love talking to you. So
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Let's absolutely do this again. It's been a blast.
done and done.